All right, so we've learned obviously a lot about hitting it long and straight with the use of the dual plates. All right, hitting pure iron shots. So now we're going to talk about putting and how we use our dual force plates in putting. So a lot of times, what we see is players inefficient at setup and at address. So what's one thing that good putters have in common, and that's being stability, right? They're really stable over their putts. So I had a player up here, he came in several months back, really struggling with his start line, struggling with contact, obviously speed control issues, and not making a lot of putts. And you're gonna see at address, can you pull the other one up? There should be one other one in there. The one below that. Should be one, he's sitting well back into his heels. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. All right, so this is a player that was struggling with contact issues. And you're gonna see here at address, he is very much, I call heel dominant. He's sitting back into his heels at address, a majority of his pressure in his trail heel, okay? Now, at my studio, we're fortunate enough to have a ball roll system we use, so we combine them, and to see how a player is launching the golf ball optimally, okay? This guy was launching the golf ball at 4.5 degrees. He also would tend to rake the putter well to the inside because his pressure's in his trail heel, and he keeps it in his trail heel the entire stroke. Therefore, his low point, so if I was, we'll get it right here. So if I was set up to it well in the heels, and his low point would be negative 4.5 inches prior to strike, okay? Therefore, if you don't have a consistent low point, we're not gonna strike the ball consistently in the middle of the face. Does that make sense? So he was hitting a lot of toe and off the bottom of the putter face, almost whiffing the golf ball because of his pressure being back the whole time. And like I said, his attack angle got to 6.5, launched the golf ball at 4.5, and he's not gonna be a very, very good putter. So I think setup is extremely important in terms of the stability of things. So we like to get players, you can pull the other one up. You can see now, you can actually see his feet, right? Before it was all heel dominant. And now we've got him more towards the balls of his feet. And as a result, we got him launching the golf ball nearly 2 degrees. Still maybe a touch high, but we like to see anywhere from 1.5 to 2 degrees, but we shifted his low point closer to the golf ball at nearly about an inch prior to strike versus 4.5 inches. So really cool stuff using the dual plates and the pressure pads with the heat mapping, extremely beneficial to helping players putt better. So if you can get the golf ball rolling consistently, you're gonna make a lot more putts. You're gonna have better speed control. With his low point being so far back, he was having a tough time squaring the face, right? So he had a lot of manipulation going on because he was heel dominant. And from there, the low point being back here, he had a lot of rotation. He was rotating nearly 70 degrees per second. So he was having just a tough time to be, being consistent with his start direction. And therefore, because of his low point being so far back, he was having a tough time with speed control because he wasn't hitting the golf ball in the sweet spot. That's probably the biggest thing that I see in terms of putting that is not talked about enough, is the ability to strike the golf ball in the sweet spot of the putter. So that's just like hugely, obviously beneficial. If you can strike it in the sweet spot of the putter, you're going to be, ahead of the game in terms of speed control and making more putts. Can you put it to a Molly Brown? Yeah, anyone's fine. All right, so here's a young golfer, extremely talented. She's 15 years old. She shot 61 last year in an event. She's highly recruited, 30 plus D1, schools looking at her. So we've done a lot of really good stuff. And she was kind of the opposite. She actually launched the golf ball more into the turf. And so she would tend to get too much pressure. So her dad actually told me he thought, well, I just need to get her more pressure left, and kind of keep it there. Well, what we see is we like to see probably right around that 52 to 53% of pressure left at address, and the players that putt really well will manage that pressure throughout their putting stroke. So what we mean by that is managing the pressure. So you can see here she starts at 56 at setup. Can you go to impact for me? She returns it to 56%. Now there is some pressure shift back just by the natural movement of the putter going back. You're going to have some pressure shift. We're not going to keep it 56% the entire time. So what we see is anywhere from 2 to 7% of pressure shift back. That's pretty good in terms of being able to manage that. We don't like to see a lot of movement. Again, the best putters in the world, they're extremely stable, so they're not going to have a lot of movement. Obviously, you see in the full swing, you see the horizontal peaks. We're not going to see any of that. It's going to stay flat line. I actually had a player in not long ago, and I saw a horizontal peak after strike. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my goodness. But it's something that you really can't see without the dual plate. So even in putting, it's just a phenomenal, just very fortunate to, with these guys at Swing Catalyst and all the research they've done. And for us, can you zoom that in, please? Yeah, just go the face on. Yeah. There you go. So here we've actually got a Quintec ball roll system that we use with Swing Catalyst, and it's just phenomenal. So we'll actually get one putt, and we can see players' pressure movement along with their ball launch, along with how they're rolling the golf ball. With the player previous, his pressure is well back in his trail heel. He created a lot of hook spin. That sweet spot moves straight to that right heel, and he would just have to close it down. Again, a lot of toey strikes, bottom of the club face. I mean, it was just very tough. It was just very difficult for him to be a good putter. And so he was in the neighborhood of 30 plus putts around. So he's a good player, but he just wasn't efficient on the green. So so here you can see we've got 56% pressure left. She's got a little bit more on the outside of her left foot. Can you roll it back a little bit? Yeah. So just go and roll the putt. She gets a little bit, but you can see it start to drop to 50, 53. She actually gets to 52, but then she returns it to 56. So that's what we call managing the pressure, with the putter. I think it's just extremely, extremely important. And as a result, she's launching the golf ball here at 1.83 degrees. Really, really good launch angle condition to hold putts and to create good speed control. Because if you're launch the golf ball, or if you launch the golf ball too high, the ball's not going to hold its intended line. If you're driving in the ground, same thing. It's going to be hopping. It's not going to hold its intended line. Very tough to create good speed control, and you're not going to make a lot of putts as a result. So,
does the amount of pressure shift depend on the length of the putt?
Yes, depending on the putt. So here she's at about a 10, 12-foot putt. So yeah, you'll definitely, the longer the stroke, a touch more pressure shift.
But you again, still want to return it to where it started.
Yeah, I mean, I always say like kind of plus or minus one.
Okay.
I think if you can return it, right around that, I think you're in the game. So for us, Swing Catalyst has just been a game changer. I mean, I'm not just a putting coach. I just think that putting is not talked about enough. We're over 40%, using this guy on the, in the course of a round. So it's just an important factor that we've been just fortunate enough to be able to measure and to get players putting better. So y'all got any questions?
Do you find this line, so you can see how her line between the two centers of pressure points a little left or downward? Mm-hmm. Do you think that maps the path of the putter?
Yes.
Pretty close?
Yeah.
So she's kind of across it at her? Okay.
Yeah.
Because that guy in the heel was going out at it, right?
That's right.
So I think matching that to your intended path, that line, the way it points. So if it points down, it's going to drag the putter left. If it points right.
And then depending on if players are open or closed to their intended line. Some players, and then we look at eye dominance in terms of setup. So there's a lot of other factors that go on, but for us, we'll take players through a 2-hour evaluation. Okay, so we'll get putter data, ball data, and pressure data, and man, we've got a really good baseline to helping players putt better. So it's like I said, it's just something not talked about enough, and for us, it's just been a game changer, helping players roll the rock better just by helping players manage their pressure, and for them to understand the importance of managing their pressure throughout their putting stroke.
What do you find with right eye dominance? Like I would think a right eye dominant would get a little more pressure in their right to try to
and ball position. So ball positions, we move it back a little bit.
Okay.
Left eye dominant, a little bit more forward.
And more pressure forward.
Exactly. Yep. So you're going to definitely need more pressure forward the more the eye dominant. So just like the golf swing, there's not really one like perfect setup, but definitely our preference is to get the pressure more in the balls of the feet because we're going to stabilize things. If you're back in the hills, it's going to be really hard to stabilize the movement of the putter, and to stabilize the body is extremely important.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Jeff.
Center of pressure, the dot,
yeah,
the trace, the center of pressure trace.
Yeah.
You're looking to keep that as centered as possible rather than getting it north and south. It's just when they're on the toes, I'd expect the center of pressure to be a little bit further forwards.
I mean, it is. It's up toward the toes. I don't think you want it moving up and down, right? Not towards the toes and the heels as you're hitting.
Another,
it can move right and left, but yeah.
Right, yeah. Another cool feature, obviously, with the stance width. Stance width is really, really good. We like to record, and I'm fortunate enough. I work with some really, really good players. From the collegiate ranks to the professional ranks, but also just the weekender. And I feel that anybody can be a good putter. You might not be able to swing like a lot of the tour guys, but you can make putts. I mean, anybody can make putts. You don't have to have your physical limitations or anything. I mean, you can make putts. So the stance width's a big thing, but we'll record players when they're putting their best and see how they're moving throughout their putting stroke, so we can have that baseline. So if they get off, we can bring them in studio. So what we actually like to record players when they're probably putting their best, ideally, but also when when they're struggling as well. But we always definitely like to have that baseline when they're putting really, really good.
The launch monitors now allow you to take some of the tempo data for the longer swing, for the driver, etc.
Yeah.
Do you import any of the tempo data, or is that useful? Or
yeah, it's very useful. So this girl, so Quintec actually has acceleration profiles. So she was extremely high acceleration profile. So by us getting her her pressure dialed in, we lengthened the backstroke to kind of smooth her stroke out. But her being balanced throughout her putting stroke, I mean, she actually told me the other day she's rolling the ball, she's at best she's ever rolled it. So that should tell you something. I mean, she said, I've never seen the golf ball roll like it's rolling right now. So by us getting her balanced throughout her putting stroke and launching the golf ball consistently, she's hitting it more solid, and she's not driving in the ground like she was, because before, like I said, she was actually too much lead side dominant and actually would shift to 65% after strike. She had that much shift. So anyway, it's been pretty cool to see the use of the force plates and what we can do with the putting side.
Yeah, and I think tempo is good because the more accelerations you create, the more that pressure is going to move. Yeah.
So that's definitely a good point for sure. So do what?
You could, yeah. Yeah, you can get the timing, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can get backswing, downswing time if you just set those triangles. Yeah.
But you can see, my previous guy, I mean, you didn't even see the front part of his foot because he was so hill dominant.
Right.
So he wasn't stabilizing. That was the first time I worked with him. That was several months back, and he wasn't even in the correct putter for him. So that's kind of another story. But yeah, really good questions.
And in terms of ball position, do you have any theories on where you like the ball to be from a ball position? I mean,
Yeah,
it comes down to a lot of things.
Well, we look at ball launch and how the putters or how the golfers rolling the putt. That's another definitely factor that we look at in terms of ball position. So there's not one set ball position for the player. Eye dominance we talked about earlier is a big factor that we look at. Right eye players generally have a little bit more leeway. I'm a left eye guy. I like kind of square ball forward. So right eye guys, you can kind of shift it around a little bit. And we use eye dominance to help players with their aiming and help their perception to aim the putter. And obviously the putter, the shapes of the putter, I mean that's a huge factor. Also the hosel configurations. We've done a lot of research on getting players in a putter that they can aim to help reduce the manipulation aspect of things.
Awesome. Any other questions? That was great. We need to do a lot more of this. Thank you, man.
Absolutely.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.